Hi everybody, it's Mariana with 3 Peaks Classroom. Welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, I am a grade 3 and grade 4 teacher here in Alberta, Canada, and I love to make helpful YouTube videos for other teachers just like you. In today's episode, I'm actually going to be kicking off a 4-part mini-series where we're going to talk all about how to teach writing in your elementary classroom. We all know that teaching writing is a very crucial skill for kids to have. And so in these 4 episodes, I'm going to be sharing with you my tips, my strategies, my activities, and the resources that I use on how to teach writing and how to help your struggling writers in the classroom. Before we start, I just wanted to remind you that if you are enjoying these educational videos, to make sure that you subscribe and hit the like button, and also to hit that bell if you want to be notified when my next videos in this series or any future videos that I come out with, when they'll be released so that you don't miss a single episode. So just a little overview of the 4 episodes that we're going to be going over the next 4 weeks. So in today's episode, we're going to be talking about 4 really key important aspects to any writing program in any elementary classroom. So that's episode 1, that's today. In the next episode, I'm going to be going over the resources that I use in my own personal classroom that I have seen lots of success with. So I'll be sharing with you the names and where you can find those resources. In episode 3, I'm going to be talking about activities and games and things like that we do. What does my writing program in my classroom actually look like? So if you wanted to copy my structured routine, Monday morning, here's what we do, and Friday afternoon, here's what we do. You can follow my exact schedule and my exact routine to have success in your classroom as well. And then in episode 4 of this mini series, I want to answer all of your frequently asked questions. A lot of you have sent me emails telling me that writing is a huge struggle in your classroom and how to teach writing effectively, how to enhance the writing of your students. So if you have any questions, you can drop them in the comment section of these videos if you're watching in real time. And also if you follow me on Instagram, you can just send me a message on Instagram. I will include your questions as I film the 4th video in this series. It's my hope that at the end of every episode, you take away 1, 2, maybe even 3 ideas that you want to start implementing in your classrooms right away in order to enhance your existing writing program already. If you're looking for something right away that you want to print off and use in your classrooms to enhance your writing program, you can go to my website and download a free guided writing cheat sheet where you can see some common writing struggles and errors that kids make and some strategies that you can use to help correct them. So you can go to my website at 3peaksclassroom.com/guided writing, and there you can download the free writing cheat sheet. All right, so let's dive into today's topic. I truly believe that every fantastic writing program in a classroom has these 4 aspects all in common. So number 1 is vocabulary. Number 2 is punctuation and grammar. Number 3 is reading, and number 4 is authentic writing opportunities. So what do I mean by all of that? So let's jump into the very first aspect, and that is vocabulary lessons. I truly believe that every awesome writing program in every classroom that I've been in has a fantastic way of teaching new vocabulary in their classrooms. In order to support your students in their writing and to be able to enhance their writing, they should have multiple access points to using and retrieving new vocabulary and using it in their writing. So that could look like a word wall where you introduce 5 or 6 brand new words of the week and you put them up on a word wall and they always have access to that. That could be a spelling list of high frequency words that you guys are always using in repetition. That could be a personal dictionary where students have it in their desks and they use it personally to look up spellings of words, to look up new words, and to also add in words that they find interesting and that they want to use regularly. They can add it to their personal dictionary. They should also have access to and know how to use a thesaurus in a classroom. You should also be pointing out amazing words when you are doing read alouds. Point out to fantastic words and have the kids add them to their personal dictionaries or highlight that word and make it a wow word of the week, and let's try and use this word in our writing somehow. And the last way that you can add in your vocabulary lessons is, playing with words, making words, and learning about the word origins of some certain vocabulary. Basically, if your students are exposed to any number of those activities regularly, even daily, then of course they will have a richer foundation of words, a big bag of words that they can choose from when they are writing in the classroom. Here's a tip that I use in my classroom all the time in terms of writing and vocabulary. If a student is attempting to spell a word that they recently learned, but they can't remember exactly how to spell it, instead of stopping and checking the spelling and coming back and completely losing their train of thought, get them to draw a squiggly line underneath a word in their writing. That way it shows me, hey, you were trying to spell that awesome new word that we learned last week, but you couldn't remember how to spell it. but you didn't stop your train of thought. You wrote it, you drew it squiggly underneath it, and you kept writing and you kept with your train of thought. I love that. And then later we can teach the students how we can go back, double check the spelling, cross out the word, and maybe spell the correct word on top. But in that moment, teach your kids to draw a squiggly line underneath the word so they don't lose their train of thought. So before I move on to aspect 2, I just want to go over the list of ways that you can include vocabulary in your classroom to enrich the writing that's happening in your classroom already. Number 1 was having a word wall, introducing new fantastic words of the week. Number 2 was a spelling list of high frequency words that these kids are learning how to spell automatically. Number 3, using a personal dictionary frequently. They have access to it. Number 4, using a thesaurus as well. Maybe you have like 5 or 6 copies in your class that the kids can use when they want to enhance their writing. Number 5, pointing out amazing words while you are doing a read aloud. And number 6, playing with words, like making words or learning about word origins, which is part of the Alberta curriculum, by the way. So if you are a teacher in Alberta, that is part of your curriculum. So maybe you can take any one of those ideas and start implementing them in your classroom. Maybe you don't have a word wall. Maybe you want to start one. A word wall also is separate from a sound wall, like vowel alley. Those are 2 different things. One focuses on spelling and one focuses on sound, phonemic awareness. So maybe you want to take some of those ideas and start implementing them in your classroom right away. Maybe you don't have a personal dictionary. Maybe you just have the kids use their devices. Having a physical personal dictionary that they always have access to in their desks will undoubtedly enhance their writing in the classroom. So the next aspect, number 2, that you really want to focus on in your classroom is how are you approaching teaching grammar and punctuation? Because learning the basics and the fundamentals of grammar and punctuation not only helps us to make our writing more effective, but it makes it more clear as well. In my classroom, I actually teach a very explicit grammar or punctuation or conventions lesson every Tuesday and Thursday for 30 minutes at the start of the day. No questions asked. I feel like these students really need to have an explicit lesson taught on why subject-verb agreement is so important, or, learning about the tenses of words and really understanding how a sentence is structured is so vital, because then later on when they're adding adjectives and adverbs to their sentences, they understand why that's important and they understand where those words go in the sentence. So we'll talk about this later in episode 3 of my mini series, where I talk about what my classroom schedule looks like. But basically, when I teach a grammar lesson, we start the day with like a 30-minute. The very first lesson is we start with a very explicit grammar lesson. So we're making the page in our grammar notebooks very explicitly. We learn exactly what a noun is. We learn exactly where you can find a noun in a sentence, etc. And then maybe the next lesson is we review the concept, and maybe we're doing a little bit of partner work and small group work. And then later on, lessons 3, 4, 5, we are reinforcing that concept. Maybe we're doing worksheets. Maybe we're doing centers at daily 5, like a daily 5 rotation. Maybe we're playing a game. Maybe we're doing like a matching activity, or maybe we're figuring out, we have a mentor sentence and we're figuring out the parts of a sentence based on what we've learned before. I will talk about that more in episode number 3 of the series, but just to give you an idea of how I approach teaching grammar and punctuation, we always start every single new topic with a foundational explicit lesson that is in our language arts notebook. If you want more information about my language arts notebooks, you can just leave me a comment below and I'll tell you a little bit more about them. But it's forever changed the way that I approach teaching language arts in my classroom. So what's a takeaway that you can take from this second aspect of teaching explicitly grammar and punctuation? Maybe you are not setting aside time to teach these key concepts explicitly, or maybe you need a little bit of help to teach these concepts. Maybe you want to find a fun game, or maybe you want to make a poster that stays on your wall all the time about punctuation and the kids have to refer to it. Make sure that you have a takeaway from this aspect, because teaching about grammar and conventions and punctuation is very crucial in order to enhance our artistry of communication when we are writing in the classroom. Aspect number 3 in a good writing program, believe it or not, has to do with reading. And the emphasis and connection cannot be understated between reading and writing. Students really need to understand that in order to become better writers, they need to read as well. They need to read a plethora, a whole magnitude of different kinds of stories, so they can understand, what does a persuasive argument look like? What does a letter actually sound like? Or, we need to read a recipe so that you can write a recipe as well. I would even caveat all of that by saying, before learning to read and write, Can you even speak clearly? Can you even formulate your ideas in your mind? Can you dialogue with somebody? If you can't even dialogue, you'll have a hard time reading and writing as well. So I would even caveat that. But every writing lesson that I teach in my classroom is always followed up with a mentor text of some kind. So if I'm teaching about subject-verb agreement, for example, in grammar, then I will take a mentor text and read it to the entire class, a fun picture book of some kind. But I would make sure to pre-read the text and highlight certain passages so that I can point to the kids and say, hey, here's an example of that subject-verb agreement that we talked about. This sentence has an example of that. Let me show you the words here that make sense. So you're always reinforcing these writing concepts, whether it's vocabulary, whether it's your grammar or punctuation or any of that, or reading, you're always reinforcing it with a mentor text in the classroom. And finally, the fourth aspect that I think is so crucial in every amazing writing program in a classroom is to provide your students with many authentic writing opportunities in the class. And so I truly believe that I think every student should be practicing these strategies and skills that they're learning about in reading and in writing and using them in authentic, practical ways. And what do I mean by that? In September, there's a big focus on back to school, and there's a big focus on Terry Fox and honoring the residential school survivors on Orange Shirt Day. And so in my class, we use those opportunities to practice our writing, but in authentic ways. Can we write a letter to a residential school survivor using the writing skills that we've learned about so far this year? Can we write a list of things that we want to remember about our teacher for back to school, for example? Or can we write a journal entry about how we're feeling about back to school? Things like that. We're always practicing in authentic and engaging ways. In October, I love to do a super fun writing activity where the students have to, in art, they have to make a really spooky and haunted house picture, but they don't know that they're going to be writing about it in the next week. And the next week we write about persuasive writing. And so they have to learn about what makes a good persuasive argument. And then they have to go ahead and sell and write an advertisement for a spooky house. And you have to persuade a vampire or somebody that this is the ideal house for them. And so they're working on it in authentic ways. Again, that ties into Halloween as well. And then in November, we like to do a little bit of baking and list writing, procedural writing. So maybe we're writing recipes and shopping lists. And then at Christmas time, we like to write letters, Christmas cards to our friends and family, letters to Santa, things like that. So you're always finding engaging ways to practice writing that is authentic as well. Now, if you are interested in what kinds of writing activities I have listed for my students, you can always check out my year plans. I have everything broken down by the month, and it has a craft on there. So this is the craft that we are working towards every month. And so if you want to check those out, I will leave them in the description of the video as well. But you can go to my TPT shop and you can just look up any one of my year plans, grade 3 or grade 4. I'm also in the process of making a grade 5, possibly grade 6 year plans as well. But I have all of those writing crafts listed in my year plans as well. So there you go. Those are the 4 really important foundational key aspects that I believe every good writing program in a classroom has. Again, that's vocabulary lessons, like explicit vocabulary lessons, grammar and punctuation lessons, the connection between reading and writing, and providing your students with a lot of authentic writing opportunities as well. We do a lot of writing opportunities, both creatively and structured in my class as well. I will cover all of that in episode 3 when I talk about my weekly and daily schedule as well. If there was anything that I mentioned in today's video that you would like more info on, you can check the description of this video. I will have everything that I've mentioned linked. But also, if you do have any questions, please leave me a comment down below. I will happily answer them for you, but I might also include your question in episode 4 of my series as well, if you're watching this in real time. And again, if you did find this video helpful, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button and like this video so that YouTube can share this video out in its little algorithm world to all the other educators as well who might also find this video helpful. And in next week's episode, I'm going to be sharing with you the resources, like the top 5 resources that I could not imagine teaching writing without. I'll be sharing you my top 5. So hope you stick around for that. In episode 3, we'll talk about what the schedule looks like in my classroom for writing. And episode 4 is frequently asked questions as well. Thank you so much for being here, everybody. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye.